Alright, ladies and gentlemen, what's up? It's the Ascension of Babylon. What we do here is we talk about the occult, we talk about spiritual self-development, and we talk about the healing process. So if you're not subscribed, absolutely subscribe. And if you like this video, let me know by slamming that like button. And with that being said, let's just get right into what I want to talk about. We're going to be talking about the shadow government. I think most of us, especially as very spiritual people, we believe in a shadow government, a group of people that have a lot of influence, have a lot of money, and have a lot of collective influence that they're usually using in a way that is very deceptive, very manipulative, and they're using this influence in a way that is meant to benefit them. I'm certainly a person that believes in a shadow government, but I also have a very unique perspective on what the shadow government actually is. So this isn't something that I think is wrong. I don't think it's evil. I don't think it's necessarily something that I need to fight against in the way that most people think they need to fight against the shadow government. And I have the perspective that I do because I understand that all things in our universe and in our physical reality are interconnected. So whether this is a person that comes into our lives, a circumstance, whatever it might be, if it's coming into our field of influence, to some extent, it is a mirror of our own internal state. So on a collective level, this truth is going to hold the same. So the shadow government is actually a physical personification of the energies in the parts of ourselves that we are not allowing ourselves to actually experience and to actually own for what they are. So these are going to be parts of ourselves that are burdened with trauma, that are burdened with certain memories and certain emotions that we do feel at certain periods of our lives, but a lot of us have spent a lot of our lives trying to bypass the emotional states that are connected to these parts. And what that does is it increases the energetic charge of that part. And even though we might get really good at bypassing it with certain belief systems, certain identities that we create, certain attachments, relationships, addictions, things that spike dopamine like doom scrolling and many other things, that part is going to actually manifest either A, in our individual lives, and B, on a collective level when we're talking about what we collectively suppress. So even though there's some of us that are a little far ahead in our evolutionary process than other people are, to where maybe we're educated on trauma, we understand the mind and the body connection, and we're allowing ourselves to go into those darker spaces within the self to start accessing and feeling through the energies associated with these parts that I'm talking about. On a collective level, there's still a lot of things that we suppress within ourselves, and what we resist is going to persist in the form of different manifestations, including physical manifestation. So this happens on a collective level as well as it happens in our individual lives. For instance, when we have an abusive relationship with different parts of us, we might not even know it, but we may manifest an abusive relationship with another person to mirror back to us those wounded parts of ourselves that we're not really owning. we're not really allowing to come to the surface in a state of present moment awareness and acceptance. So on a collective level, the abusive relationship that we have with ourselves, it manifests in the form of a shadow government in the people in, we can say high places that have a lot of influence and control and power. It manifests in the form of these kinds of individuals who have an abusive relationship with the collective consciousness. So really take the time to think about what I'm saying. Because there's parts of us that we suppress within ourselves, the energy and the energetic resonance of that part will still find a way to manifest. So on a collective consciousness level, everything that we suppress as a human species, our suppressed shadow, if you will, is actually what creates the shadow government that just mirrors back to us through its behaviors and through the different tactics and deceptions and things of that nature that they're always running on the collective. It's mirroring back the abusive relationship that we have with ourselves. And if we're projecting back onto the mirror, we're never going to actually welcome to the surface these different parts of us that need to be accepted and integrated on an individual and collective level for us to actually shift into a timeline where we see less and less and less of the kinds of individuals that make up what we can call the shadow government. Because once again, as a species, if this is what we are in resonance with, this is what is going to manifest on the collective world stage. So every politician, maybe it's the president, different figures that you identify with having a lot of power that are abusing that power to some degree. That is a mirror that is being presented in front of you, reflecting back to you these different suppressed aspects of self. And you can actually use that mirror and build a relationship with it to start connecting with these different parts of you that contribute in putting us all in a resonance where there's a shadow government that has the level of control that it currently has in the present moment. So, once again, I really want you to think about that, and I really want you to kind of soak that in if this is new information for you. And I know it can be a little bit hard for some of you to maybe find relatability with what's going on the world stage. There's war. A lot of the things that Donald Trump is doing could be very damaging. That's a fact. Even the Epstein files, right? I made a video about this on my TikTok. But even the Epstein files, and what we're seeing is a personification and a physical representation of what we have collectively suppressed within ourselves. And because we've resisted that energy, it's taken the extreme manifest form of the darkness that you are seeing in those Epstein files. Now, does that mean that you or I are pedophiles and that's what we're suppressing? No, that's not what I mean. But you do want to understand that it's deeply suppressed trauma that causes individuals like Epstein and other people in the files to behave the way that they're behaving. And if they were to actually heal through that trauma, or if they started healing through it, their behaviors would actually change to where they wouldn't be into these very disgusting sexual acts and deceptive behaviors and things of that nature. Those are all trauma-driven behaviors and trauma-driven personality traits that they have. And even though maybe I wouldn't do that kind of thing and you wouldn't do that kind of thing, there's things that we have done and negative personality traits that have formed within our psyche that are the result of suppressed trauma. So once again, even though maybe we wouldn't do that exact same thing, the same trauma-based energetic charge that some of us may have been avoiding for a very long time, and maybe that charge just causes us to be addicted to something or to form certain negative identities or unhealthy relationships and things of that nature. It can be the same trauma-based energetic charge that causes somebody like Jeffrey Epstein to do the things that Jeffrey Epstein has done. So I really hope you're kind of understanding what I'm conveying to you. And if this is information that's new to you, I hope what I'm saying is helping you find a level of relatability to what's going on the world stage and the concept of the shadow government as a whole, because the shadow government is just a projection reflected back, a projection of our own shadow. It is what we suppress within ourselves, and if we're victim blaming, if we're in this survival stress kind of energy to where it's like, no, these people are bad and I'm going to fight against them, and a lot of that stuff that we see, especially on the internet with people in the spiritual space talking about these topics, kind of stuck in that survival stress kind of energy to where they're actually in a separation victim-based consciousness. That is a form of resisting our own shadow, and what we resist will continue to absolutely persist. And another thing to keep in mind is that a major tactic of these kinds of individuals, of the shadow government, is to actually, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll say it like this, is to program the collective consciousness in a way to where people respond in that very same way, to where they're not seeing the interconnectedness between them and the matter at hand, or them and other people. You can think of the entirety of your reality experience holding pieces of yourself that you can recollect and connect with by finding relatability with your external experience. So even if that's a very negative experience or a very negative interaction that you might have with somebody, by having relatability or finding relatability to that negative experience or to that person, understanding that they're actually a part of yourself, the part of you that they're reflecting back to you, you start to get to pull that part in and reintegrate that part into the whole of your awareness, so you can operate as more of a unified field of awareness versus the space that a lot of people are stuck in, which is separation and fragmentation. A lot of stuff that they kind of weaponize through the major industries, schooling, TV, social media, even the medical field. If I didn't say this already, the entertainment industry, so music and things of that nature. One of the major strategies that they use is to keep us in a space of separation. And there's all kinds of programs that they insert into the mass collective awareness with the intention of keeping us separated. Separated from finding relatability with each other, and separated from seeing exactly what I'm telling you in this video today. The shadow government is your own shadow. And how you find relatability to that is up to you. But people that are more evolved and that are truly honoring their process are going to be people that don't reject their own shadow when it shows up either in their life or it even maybe shows up in some way on the world stage. You know? And I noticed something that when the Epstein files got released, there was like this trickle down effect or like this energetic ripple effect to where there was a lot of chaos that manifested within the mass collective. I saw a lot of chaos manifesting in like the spiritual community on TikTok and stuff like that. And that's because what was in the Epstein files was our shadow reflected back. And when those wounded, we can even say more sensitive parts were coming to the surface, a lot of people didn't really have the education or the capacity to start processing the emotions associated with those parts. So they started projecting chaos. They started projecting, I'm a victim. They started projecting survival stress. We need to fight. These people are bad. This person did this to me and therefore it's all their fault. And things of that nature. But that's never going to be a space that gets us to the root, either individually or on a collective level, the root of what is even causing these things to manifest in the first place. The answer is never necessarily out there, but it starts within. In fact, anything out there is just a projection of what is inside of us and our overall energetic state. So even though as individuals we're all in different spaces, in different places within our evolutionary process together, even though we're all different, we create an overall energetic resonance. So what we're suppressing kind of accumulates into what is going on the world stage, what certain government agencies are doing, the shadow government, all of the different deceptive tactics and things of that nature that are employed. That is just the abusive relationship that we oftentimes have with ourselves. And until we take full accountability for what we're creating, once again, what we're resisting will always be persisting. And this is what these kinds of people don't want you to know, because the game is over for them when we see ourselves as the creator. And to see ourselves as the creator means everything is now an interconnected web and everything is an extension of us. So that means Donald Trump. That means your favorite politician. That means the politician that you absolutely can't stand. That means the sociopathic, psychopathic world leader. We are all parts of each other. Therefore, we all provide a mirror to each other. We are all mirrors reflecting back to each other our own internal states. So rather than rejecting the mirror and your own shadow, learn to find relatability to it. Learn to work with it. Learn to see yourself in it, even when it's really, really hard to do so. And by doing that, you're honoring your process in a way to where you're expanding your awareness, you're expanding your energy field, and therefore your energetic influence to such an extent that these kinds of people that you might have a lot of anger towards, they won't be able to affect you in the same way ever again. The shadow government will no longer be able to have the power over you that, maybe it's had for a very long time, in a day and age when most people in our society are very much conditioned to not be themselves and conditioned to create identities that are rooted in avoiding what they're actually feeling deep down. This is how this shadow government feeds from people, and this is how it ultimately, controls the collective consciousness. It keeps people in a space of separation. We see this in the major industries with music. It promotes a lot of materialism and I, and if you don't have it, and if it's not my way, then fuck you, and all that stuff. TVs and movies and just the system as a whole is kind of like a narcissistic entity or a narcissistic kind of energy. And this kind of influences us to exist in a similar energetic state of separation and fragmentation. But when you start seeing the darkness in the world or the negativity in the world as possibly reflecting back your own inner negative charge, parts of you that are in a trauma-based energetic resonance, it gives you the ability to actually break free from the matrix. So this is what I wanted to share today. The shadow government is our own shadow, and it's up to you to take responsibility for integrating your shadow. And when you do this, you can no longer be controlled by the shadow government itself. Thank you for being here, and I will catch you in the next video.